Welcome back Year 9. Today you're going to be completing your iamf copy on one of your collage images. As you can see, I've briefly sketched this out in pencil and biro pen just so you can see the outline of my drawing. Once you've completed your drawing, you are then going to start working into your image, and this is going to be the example step today. This won't be completed today as this should take you around 2 weeks and potentially part of your homework. However, I'm just going to show you the first steps of how you'd approach this copy. Using a black fine liner pen or alternatively a black biro, you're going to start some cross-hatching inside the negative spaces. So the negative spaces are basically the spaces that are behind your image. These are normally the darker, shadowy spaces that are amongst the wood or the details that you've got in front of you. So as you can see, I'm starting with cross-hatching. The cross-hatching at the start of your drawing will be quite light and quite sporadic. What I mean by that is you're not going to have a particular order. Your lines will go in different directions and you're not going to press too heavy with your pen. You're going to go quite light and the lines are probably going to be quite separate and wide apart. This is how Ian Murphy actually builds up his work. We recently had him in for a workshop, and although he uses fine liner with this section, you can use a biro and it'll create the same effect, just slightly lighter. Once you start going into some of your negative spaces, you can apply the same process in some of the positive spaces as well. But I'm just going to focus right now on mainly my negative spaces. There will be some parts I'll touch on in the positive spaces, just to kind of highlight my shape and make sure that I'm not losing any of the lines that I've got there to direct me. Once you've gone in and you've highlighted most of your negative spaces with that sporadic cross-hatching technique, you'll then start applying a little bit darker pressure to your pen. Now I've gone in now with a biro because most of you will be using a black biro. As I said, Ian Murphy does actually use a fine liner. However, as most of you won't have access to that at home, I'm going to be using a biro for this part of the demonstration just to see how your work will look. So as I said, you can start to see how my lines are starting to become closer together. The more pressure I'm getting are the darker tones. Again, this isn't going to be a completed piece. This is how you build up your space. I'm still using the cross-hatching technique, but my cross-hatching lines are closer together, they're more direct. And as you can see, I'm using a harder pressure to get some dark marks. I'm also starting to go in again into my positive spaces a little bit more, but I'm not going to go in too heavy with these spaces. A lot of the positive spaces on my image are lighter variations than what I can see in the negative spaces, so I need to ensure that I don't go in too hard and make any mistakes. I'm going to just really focus on outlining any sort of negative spaces that complement those positive parts. So as we're nearing the end of this initial drawing stage, next week we're really going to go in and focus on those really dark images. This is just the first lesson, so you should have something that looks similar to this, maybe not as developed, but you need to think about how you can add to that for homework. So next week we will carry on with this demonstration and we'll be focused on the second part.